Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining our April California Brokers Business Accelerator, hosted by all of our California brokers. We have Michelle Beeson, Thomas Bullock, and Ryan Rosas. Before we begin with today's topic, I'd like to just start out by saying that we all hope your families are doing well and safe during this time. We are continuing to monitor the current COVID-19 situation. As a virtual brokerage, our team is set up and has been working virtually for years. We will continue to be here to support you and your business through these turbulent times. We are currently sending you emails to help you during COVID-19, such as how to on virtual tours, how to connect with your clients virtually, the CARES Act, digital tools for realtors, and more. We spend time researching these for you, and we will continue sending you these on a weekly basis to help you through these unprecedented times. These are so valuable. So if you are not receiving this, please check your spam to make sure you're receiving our emails. If you don't see them there, please go ahead and email me at support@ajicorporate.com. Again, these are very important for you to have during these times. If you have any questions about these articles, you can call us or email us at any time, and we'd be happy to assist you through them. I also want to mention that we have a webinar coming up on how to sell homes during social distancing on April 30th. I will post the link in the chat so you can register. Today's webinar is sponsored by our preferred lender, Movement Mortgage. Movement Mortgage will be hosting virtual lunch and learn webinars for each area in the upcoming weeks. They will be discussing COVID-19 mortgage updates. Keep an eye out on your emails for when we will be hosting these in your area. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started with our California Brokers Business Accelerator. This presentation will be an introduction from our brokers to start, and then we will do a Q&A. So if you have any questions, you can type them in the chat box on your Zoom control panel. I will now pass it over to our brokers, starting with Tom. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning. I hope everybody's doing well, and I certainly hope everybody's being safe. Today is going to be a broker panel presentation where all three of us, Michelle, Ryan, and myself, are just going to do a short presentation, and then we'll open it up for questions that each of you may have run across and weren't quite sure how to handle it, or question arose out of action taken. So again, the whole point of this presentation and this accelerator is to make you feel as comfortable as possible under the circumstances of which we're all operating. Fortunately or unfortunately now, I think what we're experiencing is going to be our new normal. And by that, I mean, even though the economy is going to start opening up, and we're seeing that in a few states, not California, but in a few states across the USA, there's still that lingering question. What risk factors are out there for us? And of course, anytime you start talking about risk factors, you're talking about legal action, and we're in California, as we all know, and this is a very litigious state. So again, some of the forms that that have been updated that we'll be talking about today, as well as some of our practices that we are finding ourselves following, are necessary. There's no reason to fight it or to try to get around it. We just need to follow the protocol here and protect your license, our license, and to protect, most importantly, our clients, both the buyers and sellers. Now, on the car.org page, when you go on that, you'll find that there are 7 changes total when it comes to forms, and 4 are brand new forms that have been adopted, and 3 are just revised forms. The 4 that are brand new forms, really all 4 deal with lease, with rentals. And so I'm not going to get into that too much because we don't do that, or a whole lot of that. So you can go on the car page. Really what's happened here is car is caught up with the rental market to the sales transaction market. And so a lot of what you're going to find when you go in there are forms that we've been working with for the last month anyway, and now the rental version is coming out for all agents. So you should look at it so you're familiar with it in case you get a question. But again, the 4 new forms are all dealing with the rental market. The three forms the 3 forms that are new, or not new, but revised, are the CVA, that was revised on 4/16. The NUCC was revised on 4/16. The PED was revised on 4/16, and the RL-CAA was revised on 4/16. Now, those of you I talked with know that I was not a big fan of the coronavirus addendum or amendment, the CVA, when it first came out. And the reason I wasn't in favor of it, or was not a big fan of it, was I felt it was too lopsided in favor of the buyer and didn't do anything for the seller. That's been revised somewhat. They've added the seller into a couple of the disclaimers here, and I'm not opposed to it. I think it's a good form, but the CVA is a form that I believe should be used not so necessarily at the beginning when you're submitting your offer, but more as the progression of the transaction moves along. And by that I mean if there's an issue with the buyer's lender being delayed, or processing of any type being delayed, then I think that would be a good form to introduce at that point. As far as the NUCC, which is the Notice of Unforeseen Coronavirus Circumstances, I think that's a good form to introduce at the beginning, because again, it kind of outlines what things might happen, and it alerts everybody, buyer, seller, and both agents, as to what potentially may happen that could affect the transaction and the successful close of that transaction. The listing agreement coronavirus addendum or amendment, the RLA-CAA, I like that form. And the reason I like that form is because your seller, you introduce this at the point of the listing, and your seller can go through and you can, and alerts them as to the process of the sale, and you can find out from your seller at that point, what do they feel comfortable with? Do they feel comfortable with showing, yes or no? Those are just important factors in today's world that you need to make sure they are fully aware of and sign off on. It protects you, it protects us, and it's good to have a fallback should the seller have a change of heart or question some of the things that they agreed to up front but may have forgotten about. And then the PEAD, the Coronavirus Property Entry Advisory Declaration. I believe this should be used on every showing. And the reason I believe that is because I think it protects the brokerage, it protects you, the agent, and even though we complete it, we have our seller, if we have the listing, we have our seller sign off on it, and then we have the buyer sign off on it, then it clears everybody. It's not foolproof, and what happens if a buyer refuses to sign it, or the buyer's agent refuses to complete it, present it, then it falls back on our sellers if they're willing to let that client go through their home or not. It's not our home, so we're not going to take a hard position on that buyer can't go through the house, because we have a fiduciary to the seller, not to the buyer. So I would, again, if the seller refuses to sign it, or the buyer's agent decides that he's not going to present it, just make note of that in the file. Still have our seller sign off on it. You can send it to the broker for our initials that would confirm receipt of that document, and then put it into SkySlope, because along with an explanation as to why the seller, why the other party's client hasn't completed it. And so that, again, we're just talking about protection here, and we don't want anything to come back on you or us regarding, and our client, of course, regarding this issue. So anyway, that's what I have right now. Michelle, do you have anything you want to cover?
Michelle, I think you're still muted.
Sorry
Ryan?
about that. My dog was barking. So this is our new normal. You guys might hear my dog barking in the background. Anyway, what I did want to add about the coronavirus listing addendum, my favorite part about it is the fact that it addresses an automatic extension in there. So if you guys aren't familiar with that, there is a section where you can discuss with your seller if for some reason we're delaying showings or anything like that, we're going to extend our listing agreement out for that. So that's my favorite part about that form. I know you guys will probably have some questions later on that we'll address, but I did want to mention in the chat, it seems like some of our agents aren't getting updates from CAR, so I put links to CAR's update page. They have updates several times a day. The most recent update that I saw was that you now have an extension of 60 days for your continuing education. From, the governor required that from the DRE. So, those of you that are renewing this year, I don't want you to wait 60 days because it takes them forever and who knows what's going to happen when things open back up, how long it's going to take to renew. But they have at least extended that for us. So be sure to check at the top of the chat. There's links to the coronavirus update page for CAR, as well as links to the new forms. So I am still seeing some old forms. The new forms, like Tom said, were revised on the 16th. So make sure you guys are using those new forms. And that's all I have for now, unless we have questions.
Great. Well, this is Ryan, everyone. I think Tom did a really great job in going through a kind of a whole summary of the 4 forms that we are going to see most common. And Michelle touched base on making sure that we're using the most common or updated forms, or the most updated forms. That is, I think, something that I see regularly, is that these forms are being updated, but some agents don't realize that, or they have an old form saved and there's zip forms, and so they're using an old version. It's really important for us to continue using those newer versions because they're being updated as we move forward and understand this whole situation a whole lot better. So I think both Michelle and Tom did a really great job summarizing. I just really want to start, before we get into questions, by saying, first of all, I'm really proud of everybody. I can speak for my agents. We had a whole lot of question marks a month ago on what all of this was going to look like moving forward. And I can tell you all of my agents have done a phenomenal job with just, hunkering down and continuing to do business as best they can. And you were seeing a lot of new business come in. So I just want to congratulate everybody who's not just thrown up their hands and given up and just gone out there and done a really great job. I'm proud of all of you guys.
Good job.
All right.
I have a suggestion on some best practices, at least for my agents, that I did want to touch on regarding the PED form. We really do want it on every form. I mean, every showing, even vacant houses, I think there's no reason not to require it, because there is a risk, albeit a lesser risk, when people enter vacant houses. So we really want you to require that PED form on every showing on your listings, and to get your client to sign it every time you show a house. And believe me, it's for your protection. So one of the best practices, I think, is to include it in your showing instructions in your MLS. Make sure it's attached as a supplemental document, and just state that it is required. I understand there's going to be instances where you have a client that refuses, and, just make sure they understand that that could mean they can't see the house. So yes, you should absolutely, Eddie, request a PED for everybody showing your house. Upload it as a supplemental document and put in the private remarks that it is required, that they will not allow entry without signing this form.
And Michelle, I'd add to that as well that I advised my agents to have that on vacant land listings as well. As silly as that may sound, I think it's better to have the form in place and to protect, as Tom said, the liability of everybody, than not have it, even though it's just a bare piece of land. Yeah,
better to be safe than sorry.
Right.
So these are times where overkill is perfectly okay, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, and another thing, in talking with my agents, I understand other brokerages, other agents out there are not following the guidelines and are not following the proper protocol when it comes to showing property. But that's no reason for us to back down. You know, we can, even though you have an agent on the other side that says, oh, we don't complete that, or my broker doesn't want us to complete that, that's fine, but still send it to them. You know, we're not expecting them to reply or return it executed, but at least we can say we made our attempt. We're upholding our fiduciary responsibility to whatever client we have, whether it's the buyer or the seller. So again, you know, even though the other side might be pushing back against us with regards to proper protocol, you know, safety procedures, things of that nature, just again, just communication. Put it into your log, your transaction log, so that at least we have record of it. And if something ever comes up down the road, which is obviously possible, then we're covered. You're covered, we're covered, and then it's just good business practices. I think we just all need to be safe on a lot of different levels right now.
Yeah, and just to add too, your seller can say that if they're not willing to sign that form, and this is something you should be discussing during your listing appointment, or, you know, if you haven't discussed it as of yet in your existing listings, to have that discussion. But your seller can say, I'm not going to allow anybody in there if they don't have the form. So, you know, that is completely within your seller's right.
Kind of on that topic, we just had a question come up. If the seller signed the old version of the forms, should the agents have them sign the latest version?
I think it's probably a good practice to make sure, since the versions have changed and some of the information has been updated, to go ahead and have them just, you know, sign the newer version and upload that into SkySlope as well. Again, like Michelle said, there's no harm in overkill. Obviously, what they've signed before was valid at the time that they signed it, so we covered that base of it. But I think that we want to just be extra cautious on everything.
Yeah, and actually, when you look at the revision date of 4/16, when you look at the prior form, that was dated 4/14, so it's only a matter of 2 days.
Right.
That's why it's important to keep checking the CAR website, guys. I mean, you know, it's just they are doing a great job of updating this site. It's almost immediate. And that being said, I did want to touch on something, especially because we're dealing with the entire state. And one of the things that CAR does actually very well is there is a link. When I'm done talking, I'll try to find it and post it in the chat, where you can actually go to counties and then cities in those counties and find out what those showing restrictions might be in that county. And that's really important for you guys to pay attention to, especially those who normally work Riverside County and might have a listing in LA County. Well, there's a different set of rules there. So again, you guys were home. You should be focusing on your business. It's like Tom said earlier, which I thought was a great point, is we're probably not going to go back to business as usual. So right. Even those of you who are sitting home and saying, you know what, I'm not doing anything right now for my safety, you know, which is, you know, commendable, and we appreciate it because you're keeping everybody safe. I understand that. But you should be still working on your business. You should still be picking up the phone and checking on your people. You still should be doing all of these things to come out better today than you were before. And you have to accept the fact that things are probably going to change significantly, you know, moving forward. So you should be learning these new technologies. You should be figuring out new business plans. If you made a business plan in December, revise it. You know, just, you guys need to be taking these kinds of things into consideration. So again, those of you, I'm going to find that link and post in the chat box. Make sure before you do any business in a county that you don't absolutely know 100% what the restrictions are, that you check them. That's your responsibility, guys. You've got to keep on top of this stuff. So check that CAR site every day. It should just be part of your practice. Let's see what's new today.
Yeah, and to add on to that, Michelle, there's a lot of us that work in an area that multiple counties, you know, you may drive 10 minutes and you're in another county, and we could assume that that county has the same guidelines as the one that we just came from, but we don't want to make that assumption. We want to double check that we're, you know, within the guidelines that are being set forth with each individual county.
Right.
We do have another question. I think we may have answered this in our last in last month's Accelerator, but we might have new people in here. Are the agents required to provide, or should they provide booties, gloves, and hand sanitizer for their clients?
Well, they're not required to provide those items. Again, best practice would be if you have extras, I would absolutely say, hey, be as proactive and as diligent as you can to help spread this, just, outside of business, just on a human being level, let's stop the spread of this virus. But it's not a requirement of an agent to provide these items.
Okay. That is all the questions we have for now. Do you guys have anything you want to add while we wait for a few others to come up? I think you guys have done a great job of answering everything so far.
Yeah, well, as far as I'm concerned, any of our agents in each of our territories, we completely understand that, we're in new territory here for all of us. I mean, I have 30 plus years of experience behind me, and I've seen things in the last month that I hadn't seen in my other 30 years of experience. So, don't think that I don't want to bug my broker. I think that's a dumb question, so I'm not going to call and ask my broker that question. Please don't think that, because there's a learning curve here for all of us right now, and we just need to work together, because what you might think is not a good question, it could be a question that we could use to benefit and educate our other agents as well. So again, my point is, please feel free to reach out to the brokers, your broker, and communicate with it. Find out, let them know, even if you just want to call and brainstorm about an idea or just frustrations you're experiencing with the virus type of protocol. Trust me, we talk to a lot of agents every day, and we get a lot of calls and a lot of questions. And every question we get is a good question, and it helps us understand better what you're going through in the field when you're communicating with your sellers and buyers. So again, please feel free to reach out to any of us at any time.
Okay, we do have a couple more questions. This one is regarding the PED. What about agents or workers who enter multiple times? Do you need a PED for each visit?
I don't think we need one for each individual visit. I think that, because the PED doesn't change. So if they've signed it, the acknowledgement is already there, whether they come in once or they come in 10 times. But what were you going to say on that, Tom?
Yeah, I agree. I think, as long as it's the same person going in, and not that person going in along with one or two others. Anytime the number of people going in, or if someone new is going in, then we would require the form.
Yeah, it is property specific, guys. But again, so here's just thinking of something. If a husband sees it one day and then you bring the wife back the next, she's going to need to sign that form,
right?
Correct?
Yeah, so, anybody that goes in.
You guys don't just think it's ready because you've signed it once. If you're bringing new people, those people need to sign the form. For risk management, yeah.
So this is kind of taking a totally different turn off of the forms. We have an agent who has been doing virtual tours, but she feels as if traffic is slow. I don't know which one of you want to take this question, but she's wondering how you guys feel about an agent doing a Facebook Live event walkthrough. Do you see this as helpful marketing, or is it a little too risky?
No, I think at this point, and at least in Riverside County, and again, that's a county specific, issue. In Riverside County, you're allowed to be in there. So you could do a Facebook Live. Just take the precautions. You're going to do a Facebook Live with a mask and gloves and booties on. But hey, it could be, that's at least our Riverside County rules. I think it's a great one.
Yeah, and Lisa answered that question, asked that question, and I believe she has the same rules in her county as well. But for everybody else, you just want to double check that. But yeah, if you can find a creative way, I think we've been saying that from the beginning. If you can find a creative way to market and get these properties sold, do it.
We just had an agent comment on that. He says he's been doing Facebook Lives and he just got a full price offer. So
nice.
They work.
Yeah, they do.
So to Lisa, you were the one who asked the question. I think it'd be a great idea for you to try out.
Definitely. And right now, I mean, people are sitting home, they're watching these things. You're probably getting more traffic on those, you know, if you have a decent social media following than you would in a normal open house anyway. It's very
Right.
likely. So, you know, guys, that's the whole point of this is we need to think outside the box, do everything we can as long as it allows. Just, you know, our county mandates, it doesn't matter what our state mandate is. We have to follow whatever is the most restrictive, that's the one we need to follow. And so if our county mandates are less restrictive than the state, guess what? You're following the state. It's just how it is right now. So again, we need to sit down, figure out creative ideas. You know, we need to be innovators. We're all very good, experienced agents, and we just need to be innovative right now. And we have time to do it because, you know, we're not commuting, we're not doing all kinds of things, we're not showing 12 houses on a day anymore. So, you know, we've got the time to do it.
Okay, and I just got a question. Lisa, you asked again if there's some kind of forum that you can join with other Allison James realtors to discuss outside the box marketing ideas. I will definitely bring that to the table here at corporate, and we can definitely plan something like that because I think that's a great idea, and maybe one of our next or upcoming webinars can be all about marketing ideas.
Yeah,
but in the meantime, I think the best thing to do if you aren't in your group, in your Facebook group for your area, that's going to be a great place to post ideas or maybe even start some kind of thread. And then we also have a nationwide group as well. So if you need those links to join, I can definitely send you those. But I do like that idea.
I do too. I think it's a great one.
Yep. I do have now that we're going to go back off of marketing here for a minute, I do have another agent who wants to confirm when we release all contingencies, is the COVID addendum still valid and in place throughout?
Well, no, one of the revisions on the form, and I'm sorry, I can't reference it specifically, does state providing that all contingencies have not already been removed.
Yeah, so I think one of the older versions didn't really touch base on that.
Just
Right.
put that in on the 16th. So
Right.
basically, no, if they've removed contingencies, they can't throw them back on using the new forms because it doesn't work that way. Unless, of course, there's a new material fact that comes up.
Right.
Okay.
And I'm trying to find, I'm trying to talk and find, I think I just found those local ordinances that I will send out here shortly. So
Perfect. I think we've gotten a few great questions. I'm going to post right now in the chat box. I'm going to post our nationwide Allison James Facebook group as well. And then from there, you can actually find your specific area. So this is going to be a great place to discuss marketing ideas with other Allison James agents. So I'm going to post that group in here in the chat so you guys can join that.
Guys, just so you know, for the local ordinances, you do need to be logged in. So the link won't work unless you're logged in.
And I'm going to repost those links again that Michelle posted earlier. So you guys.
All right, there we go. There's our local ordinances. And guys, really, I mean, even if you think you know, check, because you may not know. You may not.
Let's see what other kind of questions we have. I think we've covered just about everything. Do you guys have any last minute thoughts on anything else you guys want to cover?
No, I think we've covered it all. Michelle, how about you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I did my rambling. You know me, I like to talk. So I think I covered it. There is someone asking about a COVID-19 tagline in SkySlope. I'm not exactly sure what that question is.
Yeah, I mean, we did add requirements to all the checklists. So if that's what you're referring to, they should be in there.
Oh, okay. Guys, there are questions. I don't know if you guys want to touch on it about the PP, all of the programs, you know, that they're doing, the EIDL. As far as I know, I don't think anybody's received it. Today, it did pass more funding. They ran out of funding last Thursday. And and they passed more funding today. So if for those of you who have applied, who knows? I haven't heard of anybody receiving any funding before they ran out. So. And those of you who are interested in the unemployment portion of it, for independent contractors in California, that does not open up until the 28th.
That's great information.
Mm-hmm. Well, I noticed there's some PPP questions coming through. So, I mean, we don't have answers to that. You can try applying the Paycheck Protection Program. You go directly through your bank. I've heard that there are banks now taking applications now that they know the funding's coming through. Again, they ran out of funding in less than 2 weeks for that program before. That program is now out of money, so they approved the second round of funding today. And some banks, which you have to go through your bank or some other bank, it is a SBA loan, but that is handled through the banks. They are taking applications again now. The EIDL is something that you cannot apply for now because they ran out of funds. So you'll just have to keep checking back, and that is something directly through the SBA. So you'll have to go to the SBA site for the EIDL loan. PPA loans, the Paycheck Protection Programs will be need to be through your bank.
All right, I think we've covered everything. Someone asked if we can get an Allison James face mask. I love that idea. I think that would be great for all your Facebook Lives.
Well, Stacy Saunders asked if all inspectors should sign the form, and I would say yes. Wouldn't you agree, Tom, that everybody that enters the house should sign it?
Exactly.
Yeah, anyone, yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's an REO listing. It doesn't matter what listing it is right now, guys. Just keep in mind, even if in your mind, hey, it's vacant, I don't need to do this. The bottom line, and I guess I'll finish with this, and I won't bring up anything else because I know I'm keeping this thing going. But the bottom line is we have no idea how this legally is going to play out. There are no precedents for what the things we're dealing with now. And, you know, with real estate law and any type of law, we go by precedents to anticipate what could possibly happen or what's likely to happen. We don't know any of this now. We have no idea because there's no precedents. So we can't say, oh, if I do this, this is probably going to happen. We don't know how the judges are we don't know. So that being said, if the house is vacant, if it's whatever it is, it doesn't matter who owns it. If it's an REO, if nobody steps in, you still need to have these forms signed. They're a barrier to protect you legally to the unknowns that we have no idea what could come down the pipe. So that's it for me.
We did just have another question come up, and I don't want to ignore it. Michelle Fleming is asking for the PUA assistance. What start date do we use for when we stopped working? Do you guys know?
I'm not an expert on that. Do either of you?
No, and that we don't use a start date. It's honestly, you shouldn't be applying if you're still making money. We have plenty of agents that are still making money, but if you're definitely not making money, you need to figure that out. When did you start losing your deals? You know, I heard of somebody losing 9 deals in 3 weeks. And that's, that's the kind of people, we shouldn't automatically be applying for these things. We need to, because there are limited funds and we can't take them from people who need them. So that being said, if you've lost a bunch of deals, that's the day that you say, on this day I lost 2 deals or whatever. So now that's my start date.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I'm not sure what's on the application process either. So.
Well, they're not even sure what's on it yet. They haven't even finished they had to create an entirely new system for it. So, and it's just not set up right now. And who knows what you're going to need to provide. And if you make money, if you get a commission check, guess what? You don't qualify for your benefits anymore. So guys, keep that in mind. It's not a given. It's something that's there for you if you need it.
Perfect. Well, I think that was a great accelerator. I appreciate everyone who joined us, and especially for asking all of your great questions and even offering some of your own input. We do really appreciate it. And very much thank you to all of our brokers. You guys always provide wonderful insight, and you guys organized today's topic and presentation. And I think we got all of our questions answered. Any questions that we may have missed, I'll make sure to get these out to the brokers just to make sure that they do get answered via email, since we do have to come to an end with this. So thanks everyone for joining us today, and I hope you all have a wonderful week. Bye everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.